And joining us today to help us break that down, we have Attorney Gilbert Andres, an ICC accredited lawyer. Good morning. Welcome back to the program.
Morning, Gretchen, and to all your viewers, Morning Matters.
Okay. Former spokesperson Harry Roque has already said he is filing a motion for consideration, and he has 15 days to a leeway for before the cancellation of his passport. What would you say are his chances of having that reconsidered? And also, what do you think are his remedies within the next 15 days?
Well, Gretchen, it's really difficult to unpack this because you will actually see here the interplay between domestic Philippine law, Dutch domestic law, as well as international law. Let's first unpack it from the viewpoint of Philippine domestic law. Well, there are remedies, but I think I will just leave that to Attorney Harry Roque because he is a lawyer himself, and I'm his lawyer for this matter. But yes, there's a 15-day period to file an MR. But as to the relationship of Dutch domestic law and international law, remember that the arrest warrant was issued by a Philippine court because of state sovereignty. But as to whether or not it's executable in the Netherlands is another matter because first there should be an extradition treaty between the Philippines and the Netherlands. And I checked the DOJ website. There's no extradition treaty between the Philippines and the Netherlands. So that's really the challenge. What will be done, I think, is a legal assistance or request for legal assistance based on reciprocity, but that is subject to the discretion of the Dutch government in accordance with their Dutch domestic law.
Okay, but in your experience over at The Hague, how does the Dutch government react to arrest warrants? Siyempre meron nga po, gaya na sabi po ninyo, legal assistance, diplomatic courtesy, anong usual response nila pagka may ganyan?
Well, it involves a person and it involves the liberty of a person, then that's subject to judicial proceedings. And that's where the extradition treaty comes in. But in international law, extradition is really subject to a treaty. It's not subject to customary international law. And unfortunately, the Philippines and the Netherlands has no extradition treaty. We only have extradition treaties with 3 European countries. That's Spain, Switzerland, and Russia. Maybe this is also a point where the Philippines needs to sign and negotiate extradition treaties with many other countries, not just 14 other countries. Now, there's also the complication that there's an invocation here of the principle of non-refoulement, which is a principle under the Refugee Convention and the Convention Against Torture. So, if ever the Philippines will apply with the Dutch government for mutual legal assistance based on reciprocity, then that will be, the Philippines will have to argue. And the Dutch government will have to balance and weigh all of these factors. So, that's really a complicated issue.
Okay, would the same situation be applicable to Austria? Because yun daw ang kanyang point of entry at sa latest na balita natin, yun ang sinabi ni spokesperson Harry Roque na pinabalik daw siya ng point of entry niya, which is Austria, at doon daw siya mag-apply ng asylum.
Yes, Gretchen, it will be the same procedure. So Austria will look at if the Philippines will actually make a request with Austria based on reciprocity, then Austria will again determine is there an extradition treaty. Since none, then it will be subject to reciprocity and it will be subject to its own discretion. So that's the interplay now of international law and Austrian domestic law.
Kumbaga hindi automatically enforceable. Oo.
Yes, Gretchen. And in fact, there were actually discussions about the Interpol Red Notice. Remember, the Interpol is really a cooperation agreement. So it doesn't mean that there's an international arrest warrant. But a red notice really means that because of the arrest warrant issued by a Philippine court, then there's a notice to all the 196 members of the Interpol. But as to how that will be actualized, how it will be executed by those 196 member states, it's subject to its own domestic laws and procedure.
Okay. Yesterday, we had Attorney Domingo Cayosa at sabi po niya, this can supersede itong, actually hindi din niya sinabi ng ganong paraan, ano? Sinabi lang niya na dahil may red notice na, pwedeng gumalaw na yung Interpol to arrest, to bring him home. Hindi yon, subject pa rin siya to the Dutch authorities if they will allow it. Tama?
Yes, Gretchen, because remember the Interpol, it's really a coordination organization. Okay. So that's really the challenge of Interpol. In fact, it's not an international police in the sense na mayroon po silang mga tsapa, mayroon po silang mga armas at pupunta sila all around the world. No. It's really a cooperation agreement with an international organization at its end. Kaya po, it's still subject to the domestic jurisdiction of all the 196 state members.
So to drill it down to its essence, Attorney Harry Roque does have a lot of room and a lot of time before his world gets smaller with this arrest warrant.
Well, I do understand that his passport was cancelled, but let me also bring it to light that as long as the person, I presume the person has a residence card because matagal na rin po siya nandun sa the Netherlands at sa Europe. Kung may residence card, nakaka-travel po yung taong po yun across the Schengen member states. And if I'm not mistaken, there are about 30, I think.
Kung nakakuha na siya, that is assuming nakakuha na siya nito.
I just presume, Gretchen, kasi matagal na rin, since March, nandun po siya, at ngayon, November. Okay. So, makaka-travel po ang isang tao na may residence card sa loob po ng isang Schengen area. Pero hindi po siya makakalabas ng Schengen area kasi kailangan niya po ipakita ang passport po.
Okay. But does the cancellation of the passport somehow affect his asylum application?
Well, strictly speaking, from really academic point of view, the asylum application will only look at whether there are reasonable grounds to believe that this person is being persecuted. Persecuted, that's the term. Persecuted because of his or her racial identity, nationality, religious belief, political belief. So, yan po yung magiging basihan under the Refugee Convention. Now, it's up to the state, which the application is before, kung i-consider po yung cancellation of passport. But I understand that the Philippines applied for a cancellation of passport before the RTC para po ma-limit yung pwede pong pag-travelan ng taong po yun.
Okay. So, in short, hindi ito magmamatter. Pana-cancel yung passport niya, hindi magmamatter ito dun sa asylum proceedings kasi they will still look at the grounds for political persecution.
Well, all I can say it's may or may not matter.
May or may not. Okay.
How will they characterize it? But from the Philippine state's point of view, importante po siya. Yun nga, malimitahan yung pag-travel ng isang tao po for any accused or suspect.
And at this point, what can the Philippine government do to be able to get Harry Roque home?
Well, I think it's really up to the Philippine government through diplomatic channels. So this is where our diplomatic relationships come in with the state of the Netherlands and whether or not we can actually invoke reciprocity with the state of the Netherlands or the state of Austria. And also, this is where the Philippines has to really study its options. Kasi there's an indication of both international refugee law as well as international human rights law. So, grabe Gretchen, ang daming interplay, interplay ng Philippine domestic law, Dutch domestic law, pwedeng Austrian domestic law, as well as international law.
So it will be definitely a legal challenge, no? Pero kahapon nagkaroon ng konting confusion over what really happened to Harry Roque. Given he posted a photo of his plane ticket, sabi niya binigyan daw siya nitong plane ticket para pumunta ng Austria, pero hindi daw siya pinasakay dahil siya ay unfit to travel. So could he continue to invoke that? And where do you think would it best for him to stay? Would it be in the Netherlands or would it be in Austria?
Okay, Gretchen, once again, I will not give an opinion or advice.
Okay.
No?
Sorry. Oo nga pala.
I'm not his lawyer, okay? Let me just be very clear with that. And he's a lawyer himself. Number two, as to the unfit to travel, that's really a medical concern. It's a medical issue, hindi siya legal issue. Although, merong legal ramifications. But that's a medical issue. At based naman sa kanyang public post, yung surgeon niya nagsabi. So, binasi ko lang po sa public post.
Okay.
Yung surgeon niya nagsabi.
Okay. This coming November 28th will be a big day. The ICC Appeals Chamber will deliver its judgment on the appeal of the former President Duterte for interim release. Ano po ang maaari kaya natin asahan at ano pong inaabangan niyo po doon?
Well, first and foremost, on the part of the drug war victims, we really hope that the appeals chamber will dismiss the appeal of Duterte as to his interim release. Why? Because we believe that he is a flight risk and that there's really a chance, a probability, that there will be also a risk against the investigation and the prosecution, especially with respect to the victims and the potential witnesses. Now, we're arguing that it should be dismissed because, in fact, it was a unanimous decision by the pre-trial chamber. All of the three judges actually agreed that the interim release should be denied. And that's what we're hoping for.
Oh, and this is the final response of the ICC chamber to the appeal of defense.
Yes, you're right on that, Gretchen. Kasi this is already at the appeals chamber and based on their own statute, it should be done in a public manner. That's why there's this scheduling order. It's 10:30 a.m. Hague time, but in the Philippines, it's 5:30 p.m. But always remember, there's more or less a 30-minute delay for security purposes. Kaya, abangan nyo ng 5:30, pero baka 6 p.m. po talaga ang start ng pagbasa ng appeals chamber.
Makikita ko kaya natin ang dating Pangulo dito kasi live stream din po ito.
Well, it's really up to him, kasi wala naman pong requirement. Sa pagbasa ko po sa appeals chamber at sa rules of procedure and evidence at sa statute, wala naman pong requirement. Pero kung gusto niya, pwede po siyang umattend dahil po siya yung concern po dito.
And this is the same process that will be done for the two other issues related to him, jurisdiction at pati yung kanyang kalusugan. Tama po ba?
Okay. Doon sa jurisdiction, Gretchen, tama ka kasi in-appeal po yun. Yung jurisdictional challenge, pagbasura sa jurisdictional challenge, that was appealed by the defense. But as to the fitness to stand trial, the pre-trial chamber has yet to decide on it. Why? Because yung 3-person panel of experts, they will submit their report on December 5. And
okay. It's coming
the
right
victim,
up.
And the prosecutor, they have 1 week later or until December 12 to submit their response. So, mukhang it has to be decided pa within this year. I really hope within this December that the trial chamber will decide on the fitness.
Pero pare-pareho po gugulong po yan through the appeals chamber in the same manner.
Assuming, nag-assume tayo na talagang sasabihin ng pre-trial chamber, fit to stand trial.
Okay. Understand what you mean.
Mag-appeal pa. So, yun, very ahead ng question mo.
Okay, alright. Maraming salamat. Mukhang marami pa tayong aabangan dito. Especially for the coming week. We got Friday for that appeals chamber decision. In the meantime, maraming salamat po for helping us understand the latest from The Hague, even from where you are. Wherever you are. Attorney Gilbert Andres, you have an ICC accredited lawyer representing the victims.